My name is Jake Penner. I directed Anton's shorts written by Anton Chekhov and adapted by Aaron Posner. The play is 5 short one-act plays and vaudevilles that Anton Chekhov wrote very early on in his career when he was sort of making his name on this kind of short-form comedy drama. And one of the plays is actually an adapted for the stage piece of literary short fiction that he had written. It was one of, the 500 short stories that he wrote in his very, very young career. And it's all strung together by a narrator character, a young Anton Chekhov himself, who is, I think, hinting at the personality traits that we all sort of know Anton Chekhov to have 100 years after he passed away. But it's still a little bit brighter and sunnier and charming and hasn't quite glimpsed the depth of human cruelty and suffering just yet. But he knows it's there. He knows enough to know that it's there, and he's going to seek it out now through some experiences in his writing. The 3 bedrock pieces, the Bear, the Proposal, and On the Harmfulness of Tobacco, actually do have a production history here at APT. I think we're going back 30 some odd years to the very first time that those 3 Anton Chekhov short plays were produced here on the Up the Hill stage. And then, strangely, they were produced again like the following year, which only leads me to believe that they were successful enough for us to say, hey, let's take another shot at it. But then during the 2020 season, when we had to, unfortunately, not produce during that year like so many other theaters, we decided to do some Zoom readings of some plays. And these 3 plays, On the Harmfulness of Tobacco, The Bear, and The Proposal, were our first go at that with our partnership with PBS Wisconsin. And so we produced some readings for those 3 plays. Aaron Posner directed them, and with mostly the same cast that we have, and we got a great response to them. So about a year or so later, I think Aaron reached out to Brenda, or Brenda to Aaron, and they said, well, let's see if we can do this for real on the stage, and let's see if there's a room for them to be up the hill again. Because they felt very APT on a 2-dimensional screen. I'll bet they could feel even more so in 3 dimensions up the hill. When you pull 5 different short plays together and put them in the order that we have them in, it's very difficult as a person who's sort of tasked with keeping a macro level eye on the whole project and be able to identify, okay, here's what this thing is actually saying over the course of an evening. I came in with a very different thesis about what this evening of theater is doing than where I've sort of landed. There's one line in the show, it happens about midway through, where a character says to another character, what a tragedy we are. And that is about as dire a thing to say to another human being, but the line isn't spoken with a dire emotion. It's actually met with raucous laughter by both of the people involved in the scene. And that to me is sort of quintessentially what this project is about. That was a total shock to me until we were in the room actually building it and we saw, okay, that's what this thing is doing. It's saying, it's acknowledging the tragic nature of who we are. We are a species that evolved to have consciousness, and it's kind of been a disaster ever since. But we don't need to see that as a negative necessarily. There is a lot of comedy in that we can appreciate, and I think by laughing at it, we're able to sort of reframe it as something to help us evolve further. And I think that's what these plays are doing.